I'll never forget the first time I used Tinder. It was the winter break of 2015, that strange pocket of time when everyone drifts back home from college. The air cold and sharp, the streets quiet in that way only winter can make them. I didn't have a girlfriend then, and with nothing else going on, I figured, why not finally try the app everyone seemed to be buzzing about? It was around 8 or maybe 9 p.m. on a Thursday night, prime time for the app, or so I'd read online. I remember the cold glow of my lamp as I sat on my bed, downloading Tinder onto my phone. The screen's light reflecting off the window beside me, merging with the darkness outside. The moment it finished installing, I felt a tiny rush of anticipation, like I was about to cross some invisible line I couldn't uncross. Setting up the profile felt weirdly important, like I was crafting a version of myself that would live out there, judged silently by strangers. I spent a good 10 minutes scrolling through every photo album on my phone, the quiet of the room making each swipe of my finger sound louder. Finally, I settled on 4 photos I thought were flattering enough, ones I figured might catch someone's eye. When it came to the bio, I froze for a while, the blinking cursor taunting me. I wasn't exactly skilled in crafting those witty, funny Tinder bios that guys are apparently supposed to master. So instead, I settled for the basics, typing out a few plain facts about myself. That I was 6 feet tall, that I played hockey at Penn State, and that I loved working out. Simple, safe. And then came the swiping. I went right on almost everyone, honestly just curious to see how many people might swipe me back. The swiping became a rhythm, a quick flick of the thumb, the faces passing by in a blur. Before I realized it, I had burned through the 100 likes the app gave out, way faster than I expected. And the worst part? Not a single match. I could almost feel my self-esteem drain out of me like air from a tire. I had always thought of myself as a pretty good-looking guy, so it didn't make sense. The emptiness of that screen, the quiet that followed each swipe. How could it be that not a single person liked me back? Minutes turned into what felt like hours as I waited, my phone on the bed beside me, dark screen reflecting the faint glow from the streetlight outside. I found myself hovering over the app, debating whether to just delete it, to save what was left of my self-esteem before it completely caved in on itself. And then, finally, the silence broke. A single buzz rattled the phone against the wooden nightstand, loud in the stillness of the room. I felt my breath catch as I saw the message light up the screen, the words glowing. "Congratulations, you have a new match." I was overly excited, practically buzzing with adrenaline as I dove back into the app to see who I had matched with. And there she was, the most gorgeous girl I'd seen on Tinder so far, so striking that I stared for a moment, almost not believing she'd swiped right on me. She had 4 photos on her profile, each one somehow more captivating than the last. One was of her in a bikini with a friend, sun glinting off the water behind them, their smiles bright and effortless. Another showed her with 2 girls kissing her on either cheek, the playful chaos of a party in the background. The third had her leaning against a brick wall, her expression casual but confident, like she owned the world around her. The last photo looked like it was snapped at a college frat party, red cups in hand, blurry lights in the background, and her smile as sharp as it was warm. She was 20, just like me, and it said she went to Syracuse University. I hesitated for a moment, heart thumping, before finally typing out a plain "hey" with a smiley face, feeling lame, but not knowing what else to say. 10 seconds later, the screen lit up again, the notification popping up almost too quickly. Her message was simple: "Hey, cutie." I stared at the words, letting them sink in, letting that tiny dopamine rush flood through me. I took a minute, trying to think of something clever, something that would make me stand out, but my mind was blank with excitement. Eventually, I typed something about her sorority, mentioning that I had a friend in the same one at my school, or something equally forgettable and lame. Almost immediately, she responded again, her message popping up with that quick, eager energy. "OMG, that's so cool!" I was in the middle of typing out my response, still fumbling for something interesting to say, when another message from her slid in before I could even hit send. "You're so cute and so close. What are you doing tonight?" At that moment, it felt like everything was falling into place, like this app was turning out to be way easier than I had expected. The excitement was a tangible buzz in the air around me, making it hard to sit still. I fired off a quick reply, trying to keep it casual even though I was practically shaking with the thrill of it. "Just watching Elf, pretty exciting stuff." A moment later, her message came back, fast, almost too fast. "OMG, no way, me too! You should come over and we can watch it together." I could almost feel my heart thudding in my chest, each beat loud in the quiet of the room, the light from my phone screen casting faint shadows across the walls. Without thinking too hard, I told her I was down and asked for her number, my thumbs moving faster than my brain as I pressed send. She sent me her number quickly, the notification popping up with a small vibration in my hand. I stared at it, letting the excitement roll over me. But I made myself wait a minute before texting her back, trying to play it cool, not wanting to seem too desperate. When I finally sent the message, I noticed it was delivered as a regular text, not through iMessage, which meant she wasn't using the app. I typed out a simple "hey" again, feeling the tension of the moment pressing down, the quiet around me making the small ding of my phone feel louder than it should. She replied almost instantly, "Hey, come now," followed by a pasted address. I checked it, noting it was only about 5 miles from my house, a quick 10-minute drive. Not bad at all. I shot back a message letting her know I'm on my way, the words feeling like they buzzed in the air around me as I pressed send. Before leaving, I poked my head into the living room where my mom was watching TV and told her I was going out. She didn't ask many questions, just nodded, and I stepped out into the cold night, the air biting at my face as I headed to my car. The drive over felt longer than 10 minutes with how my mind was racing. Each streetlight passing overhead, casting brief flashes of light across the inside of the car. Shadows moving across my hands gripping the wheel. The address was on the quieter side of town, but not in that comforting kind of quiet. It was the sort of quiet that felt too still. The darkness pressing against the edges of the street. The houses set apart just enough that it felt like no one would hear you if you screamed. When I pulled up to the house, it sat in a decent spot privacy-wise. Across the street was one of those huge pieces of land dug out deep to collect rainwater. The area surrounded by a dense patch of trees that swayed slightly in the breeze, their branches creaking softly in the cold night air. The neighboring houses were spaced out, their windows dark, giving off the unsettling impression that no one would be around to see anything. A red flag flickered in my mind when I saw there were 2 cars already parked in the driveway. A small chill that had nothing to do with the cold slipped down my spine. I pulled out my phone and texted her, "I'm here." A moment later, her reply buzzed back, "KK, go around back. The front door is loud." I hesitated, frowning at the screen, and texted back, "Are your parents home or something?" This time, there was no response. I sat there for a second, the engine idling, the dark street pressing in around me, before I finally shut off the car and stepped out. The cold hit me immediately, sharp against my face as I pulled my jacket tighter. As I started walking around the house, I noticed there was no fence separating the front yard from the back, just an open space leading around the side. The grass crunched softly under my shoes, each step sounding louder in the stillness. As I passed by a window on the side of the house, something caught my eye. There was a gap in the blinds, an opening just wide enough, and for the briefest moment, I saw that someone was holding them up from the inside. But the second I noticed, the blinds snapped shut, falling back into place as if they had never been touched. I texted her again, my thumbs moving a bit slower this time as I typed, "Was that you at the window?" No response. A chill crept up the back of my neck, the silence pressing in heavier now, turning the excitement I felt earlier into something else, something that made my stomach tighten. This was starting to feel creepy. Still, I continued, my steps cautious as I made my way slowly toward the backyard. The cold air felt sharper back there, the breeze shifting just enough to rattle the bare branches overhead. Every small sound seemed amplified in the quiet, and I could have sworn I heard noises coming from somewhere back there. A quick, scraping sound, like a yard chair being dragged for just a second across the concrete before stopping abruptly. It made me freeze, every muscle in my body locking up as I stood right at the edge of the brick wall, the corner separating me from the backyard. My breath felt loud, too loud, as I slowly, almost painfully, leaned forward, just enough to poke my head around the corner to see if anyone was back there. As far as I could tell, the backyard was empty. Shadows pooled around the edges, and the moonlight caught on patches of frost on the concrete, but there was no movement, no sign of anyone waiting. I swallowed and forced myself to walk the rest of the way to the back door. It was an old sliding glass door, the kind with cloudy panels that had seen better years, and through it I could partially see inside the house. That's when another red flag went up in my mind, sharp and sudden. There wasn't a single light on inside, not one. The house was pitch dark, the faint glow from the outside barely illuminating shapes and shadows through the glass. "You know what?" I told myself under my breath, trying to steady the shaky feeling in my chest. "I'll text her one more time, and if she doesn't respond, I'm out of here." I pulled out my phone, my fingers cold and clumsy as I typed, "I'm at the back door. Where are you?" This time, she replied almost immediately, within 10 seconds. "Come in." The words sat on the screen, glowing faintly in the darkness, and I felt every instinct in me scream that something was wrong. I stared at the door, the dark house behind it, and felt my breath quicken. I wasn't comfortable stepping into that darkness, not like this. So I decided to call her for the first time. I entered the number, pressing each digit carefully, the quiet hum of the wind around me the only sound as I waited for the ringing to start. But instead of the usual call screen, something else popped up. "Text now, audio call." I froze, staring at the screen. Text now. I knew what that was. One of those apps you can download to your phone, the kind that lets you use a fake number for calls and texts. It meant that whoever I had been talking to this entire time wasn't using a real number. They had been using a fake one. However, the most disturbing part of all of this came in the next moment, sharp and immediate. I heard it. A ringtone, loud in the silence, coming from right behind the glass door. The sound was so close, it was as if someone was pressed up against the wall, hiding in the shadows, just inches away from where I stood. My breath caught as I leaned in, squinting through the dirty glass, forcing my eyes to adjust to the darkness. And then I saw it. The soft glow of a phone screen sitting low right next to the door. The light pulsed gently in the dark, and in that instant it confirmed what I didn't want to believe. Somebody was there. Somebody was hiding, waiting, just inside. I didn't run. Instead, I forced myself to move slowly, my steps measured, fighting the pounding panic that told me to bolt. I didn't want to bolt. Didn't want whoever was behind that door to know that I knew. So, I quietly walked back around the house, taking the opposite direction from where I had come, staying low, avoiding the window and the glow of that phone screen. Only when I was sure I was out of view, hidden by the corner of the house, did I let go. I broke into a full sprint, the cold air slicing against my face as I ran, the gravel crunching under my shoes, each step loud in the night. I didn't look back. I dove into my car, slamming the door shut, hands shaking as I jammed the key into the ignition. The engine roared to life, and I peeled away from that curb, the house disappearing into the darkness behind me as I drove home, my heart still thundering in my chest. I didn't check my phone until I was safely back in my room, the door locked, the familiar walls around me somehow not feeling as comforting as they usually did. When I finally looked, my screen was filled with notifications. 15 new messages were waiting for me. I opened them, scrolling quickly, the tension in my chest rising with every new text. About 12 of them were the same, over and over. Where'd you go? Why'd you leave? Come back. And so on, like a chant, insistent and unsettling. But it was the last 3 messages that made my blood run cold. The first of the last 3 said, "I'm not actually a 20-year-old girl, but I'm sure you figured that out by now." The next one came a few moments later. "No laws were broken, LOL. Good luck." And the final message was the worst of all. The words staring back at me from the screen. "I know exactly what you look like, and I have your number." I felt a chill sink deep into me as I stared at the message, the reality of it settling in, heavy and cold. I didn't waste a second. I blocked the fake number immediately, my hands trembling as I did it, and then opened Tinder to report and unmatch the account. But when I tried, I found that it was already gone. He had already unmatched me. The whole thing felt like something straight out of a nightmare, something you read about online but never think will happen to you. I was lucky, I told myself, lucky that nothing worse had happened, lucky that it ended there. After that, I never got any strange calls or texts, no suspicious messages in the middle of the night. Eventually, the fear faded, and I was able to push it out of my mind. I've used Tinder a few times since then, but only casually, just for fun, swiping when I'm bored. But I've never actually tried to go out and meet anyone from the app ever again. Not after that night. I was on Tinder a few months ago, just messing around one night when boredom hit hard. I wasn't looking for anything serious, definitely not a relationship. It was just one of those nights where you swipe to see who's swiping you back, having pointless chats for the sake of killing time. Plus, there was always that slim chance that a girl might be down to meet up for the night, and, maybe I'd get lucky. That didn't happen this night, though. In fact, I was the complete opposite of lucky. My first 20 or so swipes were loaded with matches, notifications popping up one after another, the screen lighting up each time with that small, addictive buzz. It felt like a dopamine hit with every match, even if most of them were just for the fun of it. I sent a few corny pickup lines to the ones I found attractive, laughing to myself in that half-embarrassed way, not really expecting anything serious to come out of it. Then there was her. She was the one who messaged me first, which immediately caught me off guard. Her name was Michelle, and she was a 23-year-old blonde. She wasn't just pretty, she was a solid 9 out of 10. Almost unrealistically attractive, the kind of profile you'd assume was fake if you didn't see it yourself. The fact that she said, "Hey" first was intoxicating in a way I didn't expect, especially since I was already a little intoxicated that night, quite literally, with a few beers in me as I lay on my bed, phone in hand, the room dimly lit by the soft glow of the TV I wasn't really watching. She was close, too, just a few miles away, which made the whole thing even more tempting. The conversation flowed way easier than I thought it would, messages bouncing back and forth fast enough to keep me grinning at my screen like an idiot. Eventually, things were going so smoothly that I decided to test the waters and turn the conversation a little sexual, figuring why not, given how the vibe was. Surprisingly, that went smoothly too. Her responses playful, teasing, and it made my heart beat a bit faster each time my phone buzzed with her replies. Feeling confident, I decided to take it up another notch, pushing the momentum while it was still hot. I got her number, the message popping up on my screen like a green light, and I moved us over to texting, my thumbs moving quickly as I tried to keep the same playful energy alive. And that's when I decided to try setting something up for that same night. To my surprise, and honestly to my delight, she seemed really willing. There was no hesitation in her replies, just that same playful energy we had going, only now it felt like something real was about to happen. But she wanted to meet somewhere first and hang out before going back to her place, just to chill for a bit. I was perfectly fine with that. She seemed to take charge of the plan, setting up the time and place like it was nothing, her confidence coming through the texts. She said she wanted to hang out at this small park near her house first, at 10 p.m. It was a little odd meeting up at a park that late, but I was down. The thought of seeing her in person, this girl who was almost too good to be true, made it easy to agree. I could feel the anticipation building in me, making the minutes drag painfully slow as I waited. I literally counted down the minutes until it was around 9:45 when I decided it was finally time to head out. Before leaving, I sent her a quick text just to confirm that everything was still good to go. She responded quickly, saying she was still down to meet. That was all I needed to hear. The drive to the small residential park was maybe 10 minutes tops. The roads were mostly empty, the streetlights casting long shadows across the quiet streets. The hum of my tires on the pavement almost soothing against the low rumble of the engine. I ended up getting there a little early, parking my car along the curb and stepping out into the crisp night air. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels thick, the distant hum of a few passing cars fading quickly into the background. I walked over to the swing set, the exact spot she said she wanted to meet. The swings swayed gently in the breeze, the rusty chains creaking softly in the dark, the sound cutting through the stillness of the empty park. I didn't want to text her too early and risk coming off as needy or anxious, so I waited, pacing slowly near the swings, checking my phone every few seconds as the minutes crawled by. At exactly 10:02 on the dot, I finally sent her a message. "I'm here." And that was when she stopped responding. 10:05. Nothing. 10:10. Still nothing. I sat there on one of the swings, letting it rock slowly beneath me as I stared at my phone, waiting for the screen to light up with her reply. At first, I tried to brush it off, telling myself she was probably driving and couldn't check her phone. But as the minutes kept ticking by, that idea started to feel less and less realistic. And the idea that she had flaked on me started to feel a lot more realistic. The playground area was surrounded by trees, thick, dark, and looming. And honestly, the entire park had this very woodsy, almost isolated feel to it. Given that it was a weeknight, nobody else was out or around at this hour, and the emptiness of it all was starting to get under my skin. Sitting there alone in that park was beginning to feel kind of creepy. The only reason I could see anything at all was because of a motion-detecting light mounted on the side of the small bathroom shack nearby. It was one of those dull, flickering lights that would buzz faintly, casting just enough of a harsh glow to create deep shadows along the ground. In one direction, beyond that bathroom shack, the park melted into complete woods that stretched out for miles, the darkness between the trees swallowing everything. In the other direction, past a few scattered trees, was the quiet neighborhood road where I had parked, a single streetlight throwing down a pale circle of light that barely touched the edge of the park. I was sitting there on the swing, letting it sway back and forth beneath me in slow, squeaky motions, the cold metal chains creaking in the silence. Each push felt like it was marking the time, the sound of the chains echoing softly into the emptiness around me, mixing with the quiet disappointment and boredom creeping in. Then I froze. The squeaky rhythm of the chains stopped abruptly, leaving a heavy silence hanging in the air. And that was when I heard it. A sound echoed out from the direction of the little bathroom shack. It was subtle but clear, the kind of sound you'd expect to hear from inside one of those old public bathrooms, like someone pressing down on the handle of a paper towel dispenser, the mechanism grinding faintly before the paper tore free, or maybe the distant clank of the metal trash lid closing. What I'm trying to say is, it sounded intentional, and that meant someone might have been in there. Now, under normal circumstances, that wouldn't be the strangest thing in the world. It was a public park, after all. But at this hour, I would have thought they'd lock up the bathrooms by now. And honestly, who else would be out here in this tiny, empty park at 10:15 on a weeknight? The thought settled in the back of my mind like a cold weight, and I found myself gripping the swing chains a little tighter as I stared toward the bathroom shack, trying to see if anyone would come out. Then I suddenly felt the vibration in my pocket. A rush of adrenaline shot through me, and for a split second I was excited, thinking Michelle had finally texted me back. I whipped out my phone, the screen lighting up in the darkness, casting a pale glow across my hands as I read the message. It was from Michelle. The text said exactly this: "Hey, just got here. Come into the bathroom. I have a surprise for you." As I read those words, my heart dropped, a heavy, sinking feeling that settled low in my stomach. It wasn't butterflies in the innocent, nervous way you get before a first date. It was different. It was like something cold had wrapped itself around my chest, a disturbed, freaked-out feeling that made my hands shake slightly as I held the phone. My thumbs hovered over the screen, frozen, as I tried to figure out what to even say in response. My mind spinning, alarm bells ringing louder with every second. Then, another vibration. She sent another text. "Get off the swing and come here." The words seemed to echo in my head as I read them, and instinctively I looked up toward the small bathroom building, the shadows around it pressing in tightly, the single motion light buzzing overhead. And that was when I saw it. Half of a person's face was peering out from the entrance of one of the bathrooms, leaning out just enough so that their eye, cheek, and part of their mouth were visible, staring directly at me on the swing. I opened my mouth, almost ready to scream, but the sound caught in my throat as I froze, locked into that moment of eye contact. Only for maybe half a second did I actually see a good portion of their face, and even now, I can't fully describe it. In the heat of the moment, I couldn't even tell if it was a male or a female. But the way they slowly moved back out of sight, disappearing into the shadows of the bathroom entrance, made my skin crawl. I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I knew it was bad. I knew that whatever this was, it was wrong, and I was disturbed as hell by the situation, every instinct in me screaming to get out. So I got off the swing quietly, trying not to let the chains rattle, and I tiptoed away from the playground, my eyes locked on the bathroom building, every nerve in my body on edge as I moved. When I was far enough away, far enough that the bathroom building was just a dark shape behind me, I ran for it. I sprinted back toward my car, the cold air cutting against my face, each breath ragged and loud in my ears, the sound of my shoes pounding against the ground echoing in the empty park. That run back to my car was, without a doubt, one of the most horrific experiences of my life. Because in the back of my mind, with every step I took, I had this constant, gnawing fear that somebody was chasing me. I kept imagining footsteps behind me, a hand reaching out to grab me, someone lunging out from the trees. My heart was slamming in my chest so hard it almost hurt, the adrenaline flooding every part of me as I pushed myself to run faster. As soon as I reached my car, I yanked open the door and jumped inside, slamming it shut with a loud thud that seemed to echo in the empty street. I locked the doors immediately, pressing the button so hard that my finger hurt, and finally I was able to pause for a single breath. But up until that point, nothing I had ever experienced compared to the gut-wrenching fear I felt when I looked back one last time through the windshield into the darkness of the park. And I saw him, a grown man emerging from the trees, his dark figure breaking away from the shadows as he started running toward my car. Everything inside me screamed to move. I turned the key in the ignition, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. And the moment the engine roared to life, I practically threw the car into drive before it was even fully started. The tires screeched against the road as I tore away, speeding down the empty street, the lights of the neighborhood blurring past me as I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone chasing me down the road. When I was halfway down the block and looked back, there was nobody there. The street was empty, dark, and still. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I just sat there in the car, the engine idling softly, the warmth of the heater brushing against my frozen skin. I sat there for 10 minutes, staring out the windshield, thinking, replaying every moment, trying to process what had just happened. And in that moment, I felt like I had become a different person, like I knew what it truly felt like to appreciate being alive, to feel how fragile it was after having my life threatened in such a sudden, unexpected way. That night, I deleted my Tinder account, and then I deleted the app from my phone. I didn't tell any of my family members what happened, except for my older brother. I needed to tell someone, just to get it out, to have someone else know what I had gone through. Since then, I've been in a relationship for the past 2 months, and honestly, it's a relief. Because now, I don't even have to think about using that app anymore.